My name is Jake, and until 3 months ago, I was just another mid-level executive at Harrison Industries, working 70-hour weeks and climbing the corporate ladder one presentation at a time. I had a corner office, a company car, and the kind of salary that let me afford a decent apartment in downtown Seattle. What I didn't have was much of a personal life, which is probably why Mr. Harrison chose me for what seemed like a simple assignment: pick up his son from the airport. Ryan's been studying abroad for 2 years, Mr. Harrison explained during our Monday morning meeting. Art history in Florence. He's finally coming home to start working at the company, and I need someone reliable to collect him from SeaTac. Of course, sir. What time is his flight? Thursday evening, 6:30 p.m., flight 447 from Amsterdam. Mr. Harrison handed me a photograph of a young man with dark hair and striking blue eyes. This is him. Ryan tends to be difficult about family obligations, so I'd appreciate it if you could ensure he actually makes it to the office Friday morning. I studied the photograph, noting the slight resemblance to Mr. Harrison around the eyes and jaw, though Ryan appeared to have inherited his mother's more delicate features. He looked like the kind of person who belonged in art galleries rather than boardrooms. There was something almost ethereal about his expression, as if he was perpetually thinking about something more interesting than whatever was happening around him. I'll make sure he's there, sir. Good. Jake, I'm trusting you with this because you're dependable. Ryan can be unpredictable. Don't let him talk you into stopping for coffee or sightseeing or whatever artistic pursuit catches his fancy. Straight from the airport to his apartment, then to the office in the morning. It sounded straightforward enough, though something in Mr. Harrison's tone suggested his son might be more challenging than a simple airport pickup would normally require. Thursday evening found me waiting in the arrivals area at SeaTac, holding a sign with Ryan Harrison written in block letters. The flight was delayed by an hour, which gave me plenty of time to people watch and wonder what exactly I was getting myself into. Mr. Harrison's warning about his son being difficult and unpredictable suggested this wasn't going to be as simple as I'd hoped. When Ryan finally emerged from the secure area, he was impossible to miss. The photograph hadn't done him justice. He was tall and lean, with the kind of effortless elegance that suggested European influence. His dark hair was longer than in the picture, falling in waves that looked deliberately tousled, and he was dressed in clothes that were clearly expensive but worn with casual indifference. He carried a leather messenger bag and a small duffel, moving through the crowd with the confidence of someone accustomed to navigating unfamiliar places. Ryan Harrison. I approached him with what I hoped was a professional smile. He looked me up and down with unconcealed curiosity. You must be my father's latest attempt at keeping me on a leash. I'm Ryan. Jake Mitchell. I work for your father. Welcome home. Home. Ryan's smile was sardonic. Right. Well, Jake Mitchell, who works for my father, I suppose you're here to escort me directly to whatever corporate prison he's prepared for my return. Actually, I'm just supposed to get you to your apartment tonight. The office meeting isn't until tomorrow morning. How refreshingly reasonable of him. Ryan adjusted his bag and looked around the busy terminal. Well then, lead the way. Though I should warn you, I've been traveling for 14 hours and I'm in desperate need of actual food. Airport coffee and airplane meals don't count as sustenance. Against Mr. Harrison's explicit instructions about going straight to the apartment, I found myself saying, "There's a good Italian place on the way. We could stop if you want." Ryan's expression brightened considerably. Really? You're not going to march me directly to my cell like a good corporate soldier? I think we can manage a quick dinner stop. Jake Mitchell, you might not be as terrible as I expected. The restaurant was a small family-owned place in Capitol Hill that I discovered a few months earlier. Ryan seemed genuinely pleased with the choice, settling into our booth with the first relaxed expression I'd seen from him. This is perfect, he said, looking around at the checked tablecloths and wine bottles used as candle holders. Much better than the sterile corporate dining rooms I'm sure my father had in mind for my reintroduction to American cuisine. You really don't want to work for Harrison Industries, do you? Ryan was quiet for a moment, considering his answer. It's not that I don't want to work, exactly. It's that I spent 2 years studying something I'm passionate about, learning from people who see art as more than just an investment opportunity, and now I'm expected to forget all of that and become another Harrison Industries executive. What would you rather do? Ideally, work for a museum, Maybe become a curator. Help people understand and appreciate art instead of just buying and selling it. Ryan's eyes lit up as he talked. I spent last summer working at the Uffizi, cataloging Renaissance drawings. It was the most fulfilling work I've ever done. But your father expects you to take over the company eventually. My father expects a lot of things that aren't necessarily going to happen. Ryan took a sip of wine. What about you, Jake? Are you happy being a corporate soldier, or do you have dreams of artistic rebellion too? The question caught me off guard. I'm good at what I do. It's stable, well-paying work. That's not what I asked. I found myself being more honest than I'd intended. I studied architecture in college. I wanted to design buildings that would make people feel something, create spaces that were both functional and beautiful. But the job market was tough when I graduated, and Harrison Industries offered good money and benefits. So you gave up on architecture for corporate stability. I didn't give up. I just postponed it. Ryan studied my face with the intensity of someone used to analyzing visual details. How long have you been postponing it? 5 years. 5 years is a long time to postpone a dream. Before I could respond, our food arrived, and the conversation shifted to lighter topics. Ryan's experiences in Florence, the differences between European and American approaches to art education, his observations about coming home after 2 years away. He was intelligent and funny, with the kind of cultural knowledge that came from actually engaging with the world instead of just working in it. You know, Ryan said as we waited for the check, you're not what I expected from one of my father's employees. What did you expect? Someone more corporate, more concerned with following orders than having actual conversations. Someone who wouldn't risk my father's displeasure by letting me have dinner instead of marching me straight home. Maybe I'm just bad at following orders. Maybe that's a good thing. There was something in the way he said it that made me look at him more carefully. Ryan was attractive. I'd noticed that immediately. But there was something else, something about the way he looked at me that suggested interest beyond polite conversation, which was dangerous territory, considering he was my boss's son and I needed this job. We left the restaurant around 9 p.m., both of us more relaxed than when we'd arrived. The drive to Ryan's apartment should have taken 20 minutes, but we hit construction traffic on I-5 that slowed us to a crawl. I should probably call your father and let him know you landed safely, I said as we inched forward in the traffic. Must you? I was enjoying the illusion of freedom. He's probably worried. My father doesn't worry about me. He worries about his schedule being disrupted. Ryan leaned back in the passenger seat. But go ahead, fulfill your dutiful employee obligations. I was reaching for my phone when it happened. The traffic had started moving again, and we were in the right lane doing maybe 35 miles per hour when a drunk driver ran a red light and slammed into the passenger side of my car. The impact was devastating. I remember the sound of crunching metal and shattering glass, the sensation of spinning, Ryan's sharp intake of breath beside me. Then everything went black. I woke up in the hospital 12 hours later with a concussion, some bruised ribs, and a splitting headache that made the fluorescent lights feel like torture devices. My first coherent thought was about Ryan. Where he was, whether he was okay, how I was going to explain to Mr. Harrison that I'd let his son get hurt. Mr. Mitchell? A doctor in scrubs appeared beside my bed. I'm Dr. Peterson. How are you feeling? Like I got hit by a truck. How's Ryan? The passenger in my car. Dr. Peterson's expression became more serious. Mr. Harrison sustained significant head trauma in the accident. He's stable, but he's been unconscious for several hours. We're monitoring him closely. Is he going to be okay? We're optimistic, but head injuries can be unpredictable. There may be some temporary effects, confusion, memory issues, that sort of thing. We won't know the full extent until he wakes up. Mr. Harrison arrived at the hospital an hour later, looking older and more worried than I'd ever seen him. He barely acknowledged me, heading straight to the ICU where Ryan was being monitored. This is exactly the kind of thing I was trying to avoid, he said when he finally came to check on me. I asked you to do one simple thing, Jake. Get him from the airport to his apartment safely. Sir, I'm sorry, the accident wasn't. I know it wasn't your fault. The police already explained about the drunk driver. Mr. Harrison rubbed his face tiredly. But Ryan is my only son, and if something happens to him, he's going to be fine, sir. The doctors said he's stable. They also said there might be memory issues. Do you understand what that could mean for his future? For the company? I was spared from answering by a nurse who appeared to inform us that Ryan was waking up. Ryan's room in the ICU was all beeping machines and monitors, but he was conscious and alert when we entered. His head was bandaged, and there were cuts on his face from the broken glass, but his eyes were clear and focused. Ryan, Mr. Harrison said, moving to his bedside. Thank God. How do you feel? Ryan looked at his father with polite confusion. Then his gaze moved to me. When our eyes met, his entire expression changed, brightening with recognition and something that looked like relief. Jake, he said, reaching toward me with his uninjured hand. Thank God you're okay. When I woke up and you weren't here, I was so worried. I stared at him, confused. Ryan, I'm fine. Just some bruises. How are you feeling? Better now that you're here. Ryan's smile was warm and genuine. I'm sorry if I scared you. The last thing I remember is us talking in the car, and then everything went black. Mr. Harrison cleared his throat. Ryan, do you remember who I am? Ryan looked at his father again, his expression politely uncertain. Should I? I'm sorry, sir, but I don't think we've met. The silence in the room was deafening. Mr. Harrison's face went pale, and I felt my stomach drop as the implications of what was happening became clear. Ryan, I said carefully, this is your father, Richard Harrison. My father. Ryan looked between Mr. Harrison and me, clearly confused. But, I thought, Jake, I'm sorry. I'm having trouble remembering things clearly. Can you help me understand what's happening? Before I could answer, Mr. Harrison stepped forward. Son, you were in a car accident. You have some memory loss, but the doctors say it should be temporary. A car accident. Ryan nodded slowly, as if trying to process this information. And you're my father. Yes. But Jake. Ryan looked at me with an expression that made my heart stop. Jake is my boyfriend, right? That part one remember clearly. The silence that followed was so complete I could hear the ventilation system humming. Mr. Harrison looked like he'd been hit by lightning, and I felt like the floor had disappeared beneath my feet. Ryan, I said slowly, I'm not your boyfriend. I work for your father. I was just picking you up from the airport. But Ryan was shaking his head, his expression confused and a little hurt. No, that's not right. I remember us together. I remember how I feel about you. He reached for my hand again. Jake, please don't pretend we're not together. I know I hit my head, but I'm not imagining this. Dr. Peterson chose that moment to enter the room, checking Ryan's chart and examining his pupils with a small flashlight. How's our patient feeling? She asked. Confused, Ryan said. Everyone's telling me things that don't match what I remember. That's normal with head injuries. Your memories should return gradually over the next few days or weeks. Dr. Peterson looked at Mr. Harrison and me. It's important not to contradict him too forcefully right now. His brain is healing, and stress can actually slow down the recovery process. But Mr. Harrison said urgently, he thinks this man is his boyfriend. They barely know each other. Memory confusion is common with this type of injury. The best approach is to be patient and supportive while his brain sorts itself out. After Dr. Peterson left, Mr. Harrison pulled me aside. This is a disaster, he said quietly. My son thinks he's gay and in love with my employee. Do you understand how this could affect his future? The company's reputation? Sir, the doctor said it's temporary, when his real memories come back. And what if they don't? What if this confusion becomes permanent? Mr. Harrison looked back at Ryan, who was watching us with concern. Jake, I need you to do something for me. What? Play along with his delusion. Just until his memory returns. The doctor said not to contradict him. So don't. Let him think you're his boyfriend if that's what it takes to keep him calm and help him heal. I stared at my boss. Mr. Harrison, I don't think that's a good idea. It's temporary, Jake. A few days, maybe a week. Once his real memories return, this whole situation will resolve itself, and we can all pretend it never happened. And if his memories don't return, they will. They have to. Mr. Harrison's voice carried a note of desperation. Jake, I'm not asking you to actually be his boyfriend. Just don't contradict him. Be supportive. help him recover. Against my better judgment, I found myself agreeing. Ryan was injured and confused, and if playing along with his misunderstanding would help him heal faster, maybe it was the right thing to do. What I didn't anticipate was how naturally the role would come to me, or how much I would enjoy it. Over the next few days, as Ryan recovered in the hospital, I found myself spending most of my time at his bedside. Mr. Harrison had given me leave from work to monitor the situation, which mostly meant making sure Ryan remained calm and cooperative with his medical treatment. But it became more than that. Ryan was intelligent and charming, and his belief that we were together made him open and affectionate in ways that were both endearing and dangerous. He would light up when I entered his room, reach for my hand during conversations with doctors, and look at me with the kind of warmth and genuine care that I'd never experienced from anyone. "Tell me about us," he said one afternoon when the nurses were busy and we had privacy. "I remember feelings, but not specific memories. How long have we been together?" I hesitated, then decided to stay as close to the truth as possible. "Not very long. We met recently." "But it feels like I've known you forever." Ryan squeezed my hand. "Sometimes I have these flashes of memory. Sitting across from you at a restaurant, laughing about something, feeling completely comfortable and happy. Were we on a date that night?" The restaurant. He was remembering our dinner before the accident, but his confused brain was interpreting it as a romantic evening instead of a business obligation. "Yeah," I said softly. "We were." I knew it. I could feel how right it was. Ryan's smile was radiant. "Jake, I know this sounds crazy because I can't remember our whole relationship, but I love you. That feeling is so clear and strong that I know it has to be real." My heart stopped. Here was this beautiful, intelligent man telling me he loved me, looking at me like I was the most important person in his world, and none of it was real. It was all based on a misunderstanding, a confusion created by brain trauma that would eventually resolve itself. But in that moment, looking into Ryan's blue eyes and seeing nothing but sincerity and affection, I wanted desperately for it to be real. "I love you too," I whispered, and realized I meant it. Ryan was discharged from the hospital after a week, with instructions to rest and avoid stress while his brain continued healing. Mr. Harrison had arranged for him to stay at a corporate apartment rather than his own place, claiming it would be easier to monitor his recovery. What he really wanted was to monitor my performance in maintaining the boyfriend charade. "Remember, Mr. Harrison told me privately, this is temporary. Once his memory returns, you go back to being my employee, and he goes back to being my son who will eventually take over the company. And if he doesn't want to take over the company, he will, once he remembers his responsibilities." But as the days passed, I began to suspect that Ryan's memories were returning more than he was letting on. He would sometimes catch himself mid-sentence, as if he'd almost said something that contradicted our supposed relationship. He'd ask careful questions about his father and the company, seeming to test what I knew versus what I was willing to tell him. "Jake," he said one evening as we sat on the couch in his temporary apartment, "can I ask you something?" "Of course. Do you think my father approves of us being together?" The question was carefully neutral, but I sensed layers of meaning beneath it. "Why do you ask?" "He seems tense when he sees us together, like he's waiting for something to change." I chose my words carefully. "Your father wants what's best for you. He's probably just worried about your recovery." Ryan was quiet for a moment. "And what about you? What do you want?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, what do you want for your future?" "For our future." It was a dangerous question, loaded with implications I wasn't prepared to handle. "I want you to get better. I want you to be happy." "That's not what I asked." Ryan turned to face me fully, and I could see something in his expression that suggested he knew more than he was saying. "Jake, I need to tell you something." "What?" "My memory has been coming back gradually. Not all at once, but in pieces. I remember the airport. I remember dinner. I remember our conversation about dreams deferred and corporate expectations." My heart sank. "Ryan, I remember that you were just doing a job, following my father's orders to collect me from the airport and deliver me safely to my apartment." I couldn't meet his eyes. "I'm sorry. We were just trying to help you recover, and the doctor said not to contradict your memories." "Jake, look at me." Reluctantly, I met his gaze, expecting to see anger or hurt or betrayal. Instead, I saw something that looked like tenderness. I also remember the way you looked at me during dinner, Ryan said softly. The way you listened when I talked about my dreams, the way you shared your own. I remember thinking that you were nothing like what I'd expected from one of my father's employees. Ryan, I can explain. And I remember waking up in that hospital room and seeing you, and feeling this overwhelming sense of rightness, like you were exactly the person I most wanted to see. I stared at him. What are you saying? I'm saying that maybe my confused brain latched on to something real. Maybe the reason I was so certain we were together is because part of me wished we were. But we're not. This whole thing has been a lie. Has it? Ryan moved closer, his hand finding mine. Jake, the way you've taken care of me this week, the way you've looked at me, the way you said you loved me, did any of that feel like a lie? Ryan, because it didn't feel like a lie to me. It felt like the most honest thing that's happened since I came home. I looked into his eyes and saw everything I'd been afraid to hope for, genuine affection, understanding, and something that might have been love. This is insane, I whispered. Your father is my boss. You're supposed to take over his company. I'm just a corporate drone who gave up on his real dreams 5 years ago. Maybe it's time to stop giving up on them. Before I could respond, Ryan leaned forward and kissed me. It was gentle and tentative at first, giving me the chance to pull away, but I didn't. Instead, I kissed him back, and it felt like coming home. When we broke apart, we were both breathing hard. So what happens now? I asked. Now we stop pretending this is fake and start figuring out what we want it to be. Your father is going to lose his mind. My father is going to have to accept that his son is gay and in love with someone who doesn't fit his corporate plans. Ryan, I could lose my job. Then we'll figure something else out. Jake, I spent 2 years in Florence learning about art and beauty and the importance of following your passion. I'm not going to come home and immediately start compromising everything I believe in. What about taking over Harrison Industries? What about it? Maybe the company needs someone who understands that there's more to life than profit margins. Or maybe it needs to be run by someone who actually wants to run it. Ryan's smile was mischievous. There are other options, you know. Such as me using my trust fund to help finance a certain architect's dream of designing buildings that make people feel something. I stared at him. You can't be serious. I'm completely serious. Jake, I've spent the last week falling in love with you. Really falling in love. Not just confused brain injury love. I've seen how you care for people, how you think about beauty and function and creating something meaningful. Why wouldn't I want to support that? Because it's crazy. Because we barely know each other. Because your father will disown you. My father will adjust. And as for barely knowing each other, Ryan's hand cupped my face. I know that you're kind and intelligent and that you gave up your dreams because you thought you had to be practical. I know that you've spent a week taking care of someone you thought was delusional because you cared more about helping him heal than about following orders. I know that when you said you loved me, you meant it. I did mean it. Then that's enough to start with. The rest we can figure out as we go. 3 months later, I handed in my resignation at Harrison Industries. Mr. Harrison accepted it with a mixture of relief and resignation. He'd realized that his son wasn't going to change his mind about our relationship, and having me leave the company simplified things from a professional standpoint. Ryan had indeed used his trust fund to help me start my own architectural firm, specializing in sustainable community projects that prioritized both function and beauty. Our first commission was a community art center in Ryan's old neighborhood, designed in partnership with the local museum where Ryan had taken a position as assistant curator. Any regrets? Ryan asked one evening as we sat in our shared apartment, reviewing plans for the arts center while he worked on a catalog for an upcoming exhibition. About which part? Leaving Harrison Industries? Starting my own firm? Moving in with my fake boyfriend who turned out to be my real boyfriend? Any of it? All of it? I looked around our apartment, small but comfortable, filled with Ryan's art books and my architectural drawings, evidence of two people building a life together based on shared values rather than corporate expectations. None, I said honestly, though I still can't believe your father has actually started speaking to me again. He's come around, slowly. I think he's realized that having a son who's happy and fulfilled is more important than having one who blindly follows the family plan. And you? Any regrets about giving up your inheritance to follow your artistic dreams? The inheritance was never really mine to begin with. It came with too many strings attached. Ryan leaned over to kiss my cheek. Besides, I'd rather build something meaningful with you than inherit something hollow from my father. Even if it means living in a one-bedroom apartment instead of a mansion. Especially because of that. Jake, do you know what I love most about our life? What's that? It's ours, every choice we've made, every compromise we've worked out, every plan we've built. It's all been ours, together, not dictated by family expectations or corporate obligations or anyone else's idea of what our lives should look like. I pulled him closer, marveling at how perfectly he fit against my side. I love you. I love you too, and Jake. Yeah. Thank you for playing along with my confused brain injury fantasies, even if it turned out they weren't fantasies after all. As we settled back into our work, surrounded by evidence of the life we were building together, I thought about the strange series of events that had brought us to this point. A routine airport pickup, a devastating accident, a case of mistaken identity that had revealed something true and real and worth fighting for. Sometimes the best things in life come from the most unexpected places. Sometimes getting lost is the only way to find what you're really looking for. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, a perfect mistake can lead to an imperfect but beautiful love story.